Hello, and welcome to the second public meeting for the I-475 Planning and Environmental Linkages, or PEL study. The goal of this study is to better understand desired community goals for the I-475 corridor and how transportation decisions can be better coordinated with future land use and development decisions. Today we will review the I-475 project process, the basics of a PEL study, the feedback we've received to date, the purpose and need of the project, the draft evaluation criteria for choosing the corridor design, and then we will get into some preliminary design alternative examples. This is where we are looking for your feedback on what you think would work best for I-475 and the community. Finally, we'll share the next steps for the project and where to submit your feedback. The I-475 project began with a $300 million investment commitment from the Rebuilding Michigan Bond Program to rebuild 8 miles of I-475. As MDOT began the project development process, we heard the community's concerns about the facility and desires to improve the facility as part of the project. To address the comments and concerns that were received from the community, MDOT made the decision to take a step back in the process and initiate a PEL study for the length of I-475. The PEL study is one phase in the corridor project process. The conceptual planning for the corridor and implementation plan were the first phase. We are now conducting the PEL study with the end goal of identifying an acceptable alternative or alternatives to move into the environmental and design studies. This is followed by construction planning and finally ends with construction as the final stage. The I-475 PEL study limits run from I-75 in Mount Morris Township south to I-75 in Grand Blanc Township. To facilitate development and future construction, the corridor has been broken into 3 segments: north, middle, and south. The north segment, shown in blue, covers the area north of downtown from the Flint River to the North Saginaw Street interchange. The middle segment, shown in orange, is focused on the downtown and covers the area from the I-475 I-69 interchange to the Flint River. The south segment, shown in green, covers the area south of downtown from Hill Road to the I-475 I-69 interchange. A PEL study is a planning tool for increased efficiency in transportation development. It lays the foundations for a project to move more smoothly through the process for the National Environmental Policy Act of 1969, also known as the NEPA process. NEPA is one of the most influential environmental laws affecting all federally funded programs, including transportation. NEPA requires federal agencies to consider the environmental, social, and economic consequences of their actions. This process helps establish relationships and shapes better on-the-ground outcomes. The PEL is a transparent, collaborative, inclusive decision-making process that includes the public, local, state, and federal agencies. Some benefits of a PEL study are that it combines planning, engineering, and the NEPA process. A PEL encourages early and meaningful public engagement by identifying key stakeholders to build relationships throughout the process, ensuring it is inclusive and feedback from the core community is incorporated, which in turn creates better outcomes for the community. MDOT will analyze all alternatives developed against the following factors in order to develop acceptable alternatives that best meet the final approved purpose and needs statement and community goals. The analysis of social, economic, and environmental impacts identified will help shape the final acceptable alternative or alternatives that will be included in the PEL. The I-475 Pell study is at the stage of developing, refining, and screening alternative corridor designs. Your participation has helped us identify corridor needs, draft the purpose and needs statement, and develop the evaluation criteria for reasonable alternatives. The next major steps are identifying, refining, and screening reasonable alternatives for the corridor. There will be LAC and BAC meetings in the spring or early summer and another public meeting in late summer. MDOT processes are inclusive, and we will identify reasonable alternatives based on public and stakeholder engagement throughout the screening process. In fall 2022, we deliver the final Pell study report that identifies an acceptable alternative or alternatives designed for the corridor. We have received a lot of feedback to date from the survey and public meeting in September 2021 all the way through our efforts today. We launched a virtual on-demand meeting in the fall, and we launched another one on March 21st to allow for people to get the information on their time and provide feedback. We also established local advisory and business advisory councils early in the process that continue to provide additional guidance and feedback. In addition, one-on-one stakeholder and neighborhood group meetings are ongoing throughout the study and have been a great resource for valuable insight on how the corridor is used or any impacts it has on locals. To date, we have received feedback on addition of noise barriers, improved connectivity to cultural centers, improved active transportation connectivity and safety, aesthetic improvement ideas including mural, lighting, and historical. We've received suggestions of where to remove one-way service drives or on and off ramps, improve complex and confusing intersections and roadways and poor lane markings, fix drainage issues from a culvert installed at I-475 and Reed Road, maintain blocked off streets in the Central Park neighborhood. Additional high-level feedback: preference for I-475 to remain a freeway due to concerns for increased traffic, noise, and pollution. Suggestions to cap the freeway. Recommendation to consider connectivity improvements to the Flint River Trail crossing. Survey feedback showed respondents favored reducing existing environmental impacts like noise and air quality pollution and removing blight adjacent to I-475, improving connectivity between the neighborhoods and downtown, slowing speeds on service drives and local streets, and adding pedestrian and bike facilities. The project purpose identifies the transportation problem that will be addressed. The purpose should identify an acceptable alternative that will address the deteriorated conditions of the highway system's infrastructure, prioritize the safe movement of people, including transit and modes of active transportation, such as walking and bicycling, connect neighborhoods with cultural, institutional, and commercial activity centers, support more economic development opportunities. The project needs to define the components of the problem. The proposed project will address the following: deteriorated bridge and road conditions, some of which are nearing 50 years of age, right-sized infrastructure to match need and declining population, lack of safe, direct east-west vehicular and active transportation connections. The objective is to identify which alternative best fits the purpose and need. Criteria for project purpose: addresses deterioration of bridges, addresses deterioration of pavement, prioritizes the safe movement of people, including transit and active transportation, connects neighborhoods with cultural, institutional, and commercial activity centers, and supports more economic development opportunities. Evaluation criteria are also developed related to the environmental impacts associated with NEPA for the project. These criteria include cultural resources and conditions, environmental resources and conditions, environmental justice population areas, Section 4F properties, residential properties, business, and community planning. Criteria for project need includes right-sizing infrastructure, addresses future capacity for I-475, enhances the connectivity between communities within the project area, mobility, traffic, congestion, and safety for east-west transportation connections, improves vehicular safety, improves active transportation facilities and conditions, improves active transportation capacity, improves roadway safety for active transportation traffic, improves vehicular accessibility and connectivity, improves transportation accessibility and connectivity, provides/improves linkages to existing and planned transit services. As part of the analysis of the project, we have looked at similar projects to gain an understanding of how I-475 compares to other facilities in similar areas. This slide shows case studies of other freeway removals. Where the I-475 project has 49,000 vehicles per day in 2021, I-375 has 39,000 vehicles per day in 2021, and the Rochester Inner Loop project had 6,000 to 10,000 vehicles per day. Commuters coming into downtown Detroit on I-375 predominantly come south on I-375 and turn right to get into downtown. On I-475, commuters come from both north and south with a mixture of vehicles turning left and right to get into downtown. This can cause signal timing challenges to accommodate right turns, left turns, and pedestrian timings while maintaining an acceptable level of service. Where the I-375 freeway removal project entails a complete removal of the I-375 spur, the I-475 proposed boulevard would remove 1.5 miles of the I-475 freeway and the middle of the 17-mile loop. This can cause safety concerns, with traffic slowing down to safe boulevard speeds from their free-flow freeway speeds. With the I-375 project, most of the rerouted commuter traffic is able to use nearby freeways or the commercial street grid. In contrast, on I-475, commuters would likely reroute through arterial neighborhood streets such as Grand Traverse Street south of downtown and Court Street east of downtown. From a pedestrian experience perspective, the I-375 boulevard at this example location will take an average pedestrian around 36 seconds to cross from curb to curb. Due to the various signal timing demands on this intersection, most pedestrians will need to take 2 pedestrian cycles to cross the entire length. MDOT has identified 4 preliminary design alternatives that we are looking for feedback and comment on. These options can be used in total, modified based on public comment, and/or have elements from multiple alternatives combined into another alternative. These alternatives include a no-build option. Doing nothing is an option that is always evaluated through the process as an option that creates the baseline for comparison. A modified existing freeway option, a reduced footprint freeway option, and an urban boulevard option. The modified existing freeway option would rebuild the existing freeway from Bristol Road to Carpenter Street and address other infrastructure improvements while maintaining the general footprint of the facility, similar to the originally proposed MDOT rebuilding project. Major elements of the modified existing freeway include reduction of the existing 6-lane freeway to a 4-lane freeway, removal of redundant, underutilized ramps between Hemphill and Atherton, to, from, Horton between Pearson and Carpenter, removal of unnecessary U-turn structures south of Atherton, both sides of Hemphill, enhanced service drive operations, including major improvements at the I-475 Stewart-Dort interchange, generally maintains the existing right-of-way footprint for I-475, includes the opportunity to create additional active transportation crossings, includes the opportunity to create enhanced crossing and sections of caps over the freeway. The reduced footprint freeway alternative would update the I-475 corridor into a more urban freeway section utilizing vertical retaining walls in lieu of the existing grassy slopes to create a narrowed footprint for I-75 from Bristol Road to the Flint River. Major elements of the reduced footprint freeway include implementation of the urban freeway section and reducing the freeway from 6 to 4 lanes, reducing the frontage road lanes to meet current and future traffic needs, reducing the overall right-of-way footprint of I-475 by approximately 80 to 100 feet. The use of any excess row will be determined as the project continues through the development and environmental process. Enhancing the service drive operations includes the opportunity to create additional active transportation crossings, includes the opportunity to create enhanced crossing and sections of caps over the freeway. The Urban Boulevard alternative would replace existing I-475 from north of I-69 to the Flint River with an at-grade urban boulevard. Major components of the urban boulevard include replacement of the I-475 freeway and frontage roads with a 6-lane urban boulevard. Additional turn lanes would be required at major intersections, increasing the footprint to 10 lanes in places. Improving active transportation connections along and across I-475, reduces the right-of-way footprint by approximately 90 feet. The use of any excess row will be determined as the project continues through the development and environmental process. We are considering multiple active transportation enhancements for the I-475 corridor and are looking for feedback from the public on preferences. The next several slides outline some of the options that are being considered. This slide shows a protected one-way bike lane with a separate sidewalk for pedestrians. This slide shows a protected one-way bike lane with separate pedestrian sidewalk with the option to add street trees. This option shows a shared use path option to accommodate both pedestrian and bicycle traffic. This option depicts a two-way bike lane with separated sidewalk for pedestrian traffic. Enhanced crossings, also referred to as stitches or mini caps, provide additional bridge width over the freeway on cross streets to provide space for enhanced active transportation facilities and to provide an enhanced connection across the facility. Caps provide a larger connection, covering the freeway with open space, recreational uses, or other amenities to provide a connection for the community across the freeway. Throughout the corridor, we have looked for areas where additional active transportation crossings would benefit the community. While we are looking for input throughout the corridor on potential locations for these crossings, we have identified 3 areas that seem to be ideal locations for additional crossings: between Bristol Road and Hemphill Road, between Hemphill Road and Atherton Road, and at Oakley Street to replace the existing pedestrian overpass. This spring, the local and business advisory councils will meet again to evaluate refinements made to the draft alternative options. In the summer, a 3rd public meeting will be held where the team will present refined draft alternative options. The Pell study will be finalized with acceptable alternatives in fall 2022. Following that process, the work begins to create a design and construction timeline. The anticipated next steps are outlined on this slide that include both the north and south segments opening for traffic in 2026 and the middle segment opening for traffic in 2028. We want your feedback. You can contact the project manager, Carissa McQuiston, by phone at 517-331-5992. You can email the project team at m.-i475 at michigan.gov. You can access the Pell Study website at bit.ly/I475 Pell, or you can submit a comment via online comment form at bit.ly/I475 comment.